Hello, and welcome to Point Counterpoint. The opinions expressed by the show's host will many times conflict, thus the title, Point Counterpoint. Point Counterpoint is a weekly issue show for our area. Point Counterpoint always lets you judge for yourself. We live in an information free-for-all. It's hard to see through the misinformation and get to the accurate facts, what's right and best for the community. We will not libel, discriminate, or disrespect anyone or their views. We believe in the constitutional First Amendment, right of free speech, and we support everyone who voices their opinion as part of their duty to their community. This program brings you just that, an unedited, honest discussion of issues. The producers take no responsibility for the opinions and comments made on the show by their guests or the information they gather from public sources. The intent of this show is to thoroughly research current issues that affect our community, present the facts surrounding the issues, discuss the pros and cons, then present to our viewing audience what we together or individually feel is the best solution for both the community and the public. This show is a property of the producers and may not be rebroadcast without written permission from the producers. The producers take no responsibility for the opinions of others in the postings of comments in chat rooms, blogs, video logs, forum posts, or other medias. Ideas and suggestions for the show are welcome and encouraged. We can be reached at 46360show@excite.com. Our shows will air on Comcast Cable Access and will be broadcast by us on YouTube under the label Point Counterpoint 46360 Show. Again, welcome to Point Counterpoint, the 46360 Show, produced by Dwayne Perry and Anthony Hendricks. We hope you enjoy the topics, the discussion, and the show. Well, let's get started. Tony, what do we have on our agenda for today?
Thanks, Dwayne. A lot of fun again. This is the boat show weekend here. Not boat show, but speedboat weekend. And we'll get to a little bit of that later. Maybe we'll throw that tidbit in later. But we have our 5 topics. Neighborhood identities. We're going to move to Edgewood. That's kind of your neighborhood, kind of your area. The stock market future. We wanted to bring in a little bit different, because we've been discussing some things about the stock market. We pay attention to the stock market and things that are happening. So we want to bring to the show and kind of like a little prediction like we did at News and Views. We predicted what's going to happen this year. So we'd like to bring that to this show. Some neat little information. Social Security. You want to bring up some Social Security. Everyone's talking about Social Security. That kind of is a dovetail of the stock market future. The best of Michigan City. I think maybe everyone who lives in Michigan City has seen that pamphlet. We forgot to bring it. You've seen it twice in your mailbox.
I received it 2 different times.
The best of Michigan City. The new MC events director. We'd like to discuss a little bit of that, especially with what's happening at the end of this year. We had a lot of festivals and things going on, and this is the high point of our season. And lakefront liquor licenses, something looking at the future. So let's go on to neighborhood identities. Did a little research.
Okay.
I'll let you take the ball there. I pulled some plats up for you.
Yeah, Tony helped me out a lot on this. Edgewood is the area from Cool Spring south to Barker Road and from Franklin east to Cleveland. I don't live in Edgewood. I live in an area that was developed in 1925 called I never heard it called Old Edgewood until the realtors got hold of it.
I call it Old Edgewood.
I think it's to raise the price. It was pretty much, it was referred to as the Ledbetter and Vales edition. Now, I recognize both of those names, Vale in particular. Vales were bankers, as were Garrettson, who was one of the developers of Edgewood. Ledbetter is on the front of one of the buildings downtown. I think it was Ledbetter Hardware. It was the local merchant.
I think you're right, but I don't remember what it was.
Right. As I said, what we now call Old Edgewood was developed in 1925. It was a predecessor of Edgewood, which Phase 1, which was from Franklin Street to Maple Street, and from Cool Spring down to Garrettson, was 1945, and Phase 2, which finished it up, which took it on further east to Cleveland and further south to Barker Road, was 1955. It's a very good sized subdivision. I think it's probably comparable within a couple houses to Village Green in size. I didn't count the houses in Edgewood like I did in Village Green, but it's a stable neighborhood. There's been a lot of turnover in the last couple of years. I've seen a lot of for sale signs. Most of the houses are ranches built on slabs. It was pretty much open land before it was developed, and it was developed, as I said, as the city continued to grow south, with the encouragement of local business people like Boyd. Edgewood was two additions, Boyd and Garrettson. Garrettson, as I said, was a banker. Boyd was a businessman in Michigan City, and the Ledbetter and Vale subdivision north of that, again, business and banking. That's really about all you can say about Edgewood.
Well, I was going to ask you about Old Edgewood because I'm looking here at Ledbetter and Vale's addition, and I would think that too, and maybe this is where we put it out to the viewers. Again, you can email us or leave a post on our YouTube channel. It looks, to me, in my mind, I always thought Old Edgewood was like Gardena South, but I don't know if it already got all the way over to Tilden. I mean, that's kind of an old, there's a corner of not so older homes at Gardena and Tilden, but Tilden's kind of definitely the break off for where Old Edgewood would be.
Yeah.
So we're talking like Gardena to Cool Spring, Franklin to Tilden, kind of really old, neat. There's some really old, neat homes, and there's some ranches like you live in, like a brick 3-bedroom, 2-car garage ranch.
And a lot of small bungalows, very attractive homes.
And I'm looking at here because a neat piece of information. When they redid Cool Spring Avenue, typically they, in order to expend funds on a road, you have to actually own the road. So the federal government wants to make sure that the government owns the road before you spend funds on it. Because a lot of roads in the past they were wagon trails, or they were roads that farmers moved in and homesteaded, and they said, you know, we'd like to have a road. So they went to the commissioners at that time and said, could you make this a road? We'll give you 20 feet each side. We'll give you 40 feet wide to have us a road, and you'll maintain it, and we'll give up our ground so we can have a road. Cool Spring is on the old section line. I'm trying to think what that would be. I think it would be 600 North. It was an old county road on a section line. So it used to be 40 feet wide, because I remember I saw the documents when they were rehabilitating Cool Spring, and it follows the section line. So that means it would have been an old county road when they homesteaded, because Michigan City, for a long time, nothing past the CSX tracks, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of the south end of town. And then it jumped to Cool Spring, and then the mall jumped to
then jumped to
20.
Barker Road.
Barker Road,
and then the mall.
And the mall pushed it to 20.
The McDonald's on South Franklin, not the one close to the interstate, but the older McDonald's opened up in 1963. And
So there was really nothing out there.
No, there was not much around it. Just sporadic.
So that pushed it to Barker Road.
Yeah.
And then the mall pushed it to 20. And now we all know it's definitely pushing up against 94. There's no question. Cities, well, the limits are 400 North, but our infrastructure and our build-outs, definitely 94 and beyond. I mean, at some point, we're going to be up top of the hill at Beatty's Corner. But this was neat. And we, I guess we have to retract what we said about Village Green is not as old as Edgewood, right?
No.
So Edgewood's one of the very earliest planned subdivisions in Mass. I mean, this is huge. These two phases, you can tell they were planned at once, and they happened within 10 years.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Edgewood was built with real expansion in mind. Anticipated large expansion of Michigan.
Yeah, this is Boyd and Garrettson's first edition, Boyd and Garrettson's second edition. So the same people planned the whole thing in probably prior to 1945. So that...
Well, I can't remember what the population was in 45, but it was in 1966 that Michigan City broke 44,000 when it became a second-class city. So Michigan
66?
City, 66. Michigan City was on the rise.
And this is 55, so there you go. Boyd and Garretson did a lot. Edgewood did a lot to make that happen, didn't they?
In 1959, Michigan City partnered with, in an agreement, they did not annex, but they partnered with Lakeland, which increased the population to the east, and then they pushed on south into Edgewood.
I don't know how many lots there are, but there is a big block of ground. This looks like it was probably a quarter-mile by a quarter-mile square. That's big. That's a lot of ground.
Just at a glance, it looks like there's probably 75 to 100 lots there.
So
That's a big subdivision.
that's a very big subdivision, and we're
Yeah.
talking 1945, 1955. You know, when private developers come in, they don't just say, hey, I'd like to put in 100 lots and I hope somebody sells them. No, they start in phases, and typically they start in smaller phases. I've seen phases 10, 20 to maybe 30. And when you're talking these phases, these are huge. These are, I don't know, 50, 75 a phase. It's huge. That's a lot of money to expend it, because a little bit of knowledge is, if you're going to do a subdivision anywhere in the city or LaPorte County, anywhere, the city's typically not going to build the road for you. The developer who owns the ground gets together with people and they say, hey, I think the economy's growing enough, let's build a subdivision, which means building the road, the sewer, the water, the utilities. Nowadays, that's even more, cable, phone, electric, all installed, gas, all installed and paid for by the developer. City doesn't pay for this. You know, this is the way it works in the capitalistic world. They say, we can make a profit. We're going to put this road in. A road typically costs about, I don't know, it used to be about $150 a foot, could be bumping 175, maybe 200 these days, especially if you're putting sewer and water in. So they're paying all that upfront cost. And they say 50, 75 lots, and all these roads, they installed them, or they had a contractor install them at their cost. And then they go to the city and they say, okay, we installed these roads. We would like to make lots and sell them, and we can make a profit and make our money back. So the city says, okay, the plan commission and the city council all sign off and say, yes, we'd like that. That's more tax revenue. It fits in what we would like, that kind of home and that style and that area. And so the developer holds all the cost, pays for it all up front, all of it, every penny, and they dedicate it to the city for free. Now, in return, they're going to get it maintained and updated and taken care of. And that's expensive. When you're plowing streets, that gets expensive. Plowing, salt, potholes, sewer lines, water lines, they're going to get paid back. So that's how it works. These developers came in and did Edgewood, looks like a square quarter mile in 10 years. So that was a big leap. That was huge. And one of these here, I guess the last thing we talk about before our 10 minutes is up, is the Edgewood School. They have a school site, 8 plus or minus acres, Michigan City School. School site, oh that's neat, school site number 2. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. So that's Edgewood School. Edgewood School, if I remember correctly, had a low performing years ago, and I think they've really come on strong. They had a new principal a few years ago. In the Edgewood, it was a good idea. If you look at this, you have this many homes, and the city's growing that fast in the 50s and the 60s. The school's right there for the kids, the families.
Yeah, because back then it wasn't busing.
Yeah.
Neighborhood kids went to neighborhood schools. The kids in Edgewood that lived all around Edgewood went to Edgewood School.
So Edgewood has its own school. We call it Edgewood School, right? Still called Edgewood. But it's some, I don't know the area where the students go to Edgewood, but it's not just Edgewood anymore. It's a district. So that's what we want to bring out. Anything. Edgewood's got a pretty neat playground. They got a little they got a dinosaur thing out there my kids really like. They think it's the coolest thing
Totally
ever.
fenced in.
It's all fenced in. They have a soccer
security.
field.
Yep. That was a real boom era in Michigan City. If you recall last week's program, when I said that the Village Green subdivision, the land was owned by the Blank family. The Blank family had a business they called Park Development Corporation. They developed their own property, and they built all the homes in Village Green through Ton and Blank, a large local contractor. And a lot of the homes in Edgewood were built also by Ton and Blank. Ton and Blank was a large local employer.
Yeah, and in most municipalities, when you're talking big metropolitan areas, they have a developer and an investment partnership that not only does the lots, they also build the homes. So say you make 5% profit off the lot, you would also make 5 to 7% profit off the home. So you're not just hoping to sell the lots, you're also hoping to build the homes for people and make a little more profit off of those. So,
and like we always say when we talk about everything else, Tony, thousands here, 1,000 there, pretty soon, money.
Pretty soon it's real money. Yeah, you're talking. I wonder what those.
We
homes
usually
cost.
say that reference to government activities.
No, that's with the capitalist world. 1,000 here and 1,000 there. Yeah. The government, you're always talking $1 million here.
Yeah.
$1 million there. You start to talk about real money. But we have to go back a little bit because our producer friend from News and Views said we missed on the west side.
Oh yeah.
We missed a major.
Tuhalski.
I had no idea. Past my time.
Tuhalski Feed and Grain. It was right at the intersection of 10th and Chicago, where Chicago goes out toward the prison, and then 10th crosses it. Big business.
It was big.
Yeah. Where I remember buying grass seed there once. Had it all.
The only place I remember is Bort's Feed and Seed in LaPorte, right there downtown by Maple Lane Mall. Used to be right in the corner. I think it's Walgreens now. It was huge, just huge. When farmers all came in, they brought their crops in and they sold feed and seed, and it was huge. When I was a kid, I remember that thing was just enormous, and so that's about what Tuhalski was. Had the big grain tower.
They didn't have a grain tower, but they all the products came in there in bulk. And that's how you bought it, was in bulk bags, 50-pound bags, 100-pound bags.
So to wrap up on Edgewood, Edgewood's a neat little neighborhood, and this is, again, the reason why we want to talk about neighborhoods. Edgewood's kind of like Village Green. It's a little older, so it might be a generation prior to Village Green, but
Edgewood is revitalizing.
Edgewood has its own identity, and their cohesive group. It's got different kinds of homes. There's some real nice old-style homes on Cool Spring, really neat. Carriage entryways.
Yep.
Then there's some regular 3-bedroom ranch homes. There's some duplex, or some not duplexes, some bi-levels in there, some 2-stories in there. It's its own little community without being completely separate from the cities. They have their identification. They know where they are. When a real estate person comes in, sometimes people ask, I'd like to live in Old Edgewood. They like to ask, I'd like to live in Village Green. So that's why I wanted to bring it forward. And Edgewood has a really neat little community. It's
5 to 10 years ago, there were a lot of for sale homes out in Edgewood, and I haven't seen that lately. The area is undergoing a revitalization of occupants.
Yeah, I haven't driven through, but that's a good segue into, so that's past our 10 minutes.
Yep.
The stock market future. If anyone's watching, or if you watched the show before us, News and Views, you realize at the start of the year we started talking, I was asking to do predictions for the year. And I was bold enough to say the stock market, the Dow, which they call the Dow 30 now. I didn't research why they changed it, but the Dow Jones Industrial Average used to be the industrial average, but we're kind of in the technological phase with Google and Microsoft, so I don't know how much industrial there is. But the Dow Jones is at 22,000. So just this year alone, it's gone up 2,000 points. It's gone up 10%. My prediction in my mind, I know it's way out there, but in my mind, if the Dow hits 22.5, it's going to just take off. And I told you there's an article in Yahoo. Again, go to the internet. It's fantastic. A little scary, but the information's unbelievable. Greenspan was in there saying that he's getting a little worried. It's going so good, he's getting a little worried. If you remember, Greenspan said, it wasn't 99, or it was in 2000, I think it was 2005. He said he coined the terms irrational exuberance. Now, he didn't say that yet, but he said he's getting worried. And Greenspan's a very smart man, been around a long time. I believe he's the one that killed inflation for Reagan, if I remember correctly. So he's been around a long time. Very astute.
Speaking of presidents, all of this has been since the last presidential election.
Yeah, so January, it's gone up 2,000 points, which is
in a little over 7 months.
It's almost unfathomable. It
is scary.
It's scary. So we want to bring this forward. I've been talking to Dwayne.
But does that translate into jobs? Because in the same vein, unemployment's at 4% right now. Lowest it's been in 16 years nationally.
Yeah.
Not in Indiana, not in Northwest Indiana.
Well, we brought that here.
But nationally, Yeah, Tony's got the numbers.
We brought some numbers, and I was amazed. I was amazed. I'm telling you, I was amazed to look at. It's kind of scaring me. Nationally was 4.3% they released it. It went down 0.1%. Now, you can look up Michigan City. Michigan City in May, well, let's go back. Let's go back to January. Hovering around 5.5% unemployment, which was higher, 0.7 higher than the national. Now, since then, in May, we were at 3.9 reported unemployment. 3.9. Now, in economics class at school, we all had to take one economics class, right?
Yeah.
At Purdue, at college. They had my professor had a neat question for a class all the time, every class. What's the lowest possible unemployment rate that's possible? Because there'll always be people transitioning. There'll always be people unemployed, whether they're moving jobs or leaving jobs or retiring. Or they're on hiatus. There's always a number. I looked it up again because I didn't remember. Well, they say 3% is full employment. Typically, 3% of the people will always be transitioning. So unemployment rate national is 4.3. Michigan City reported is 3.9 in May. Now the thing I want to bring in here is, this is what you need to know, Dwayne. In June, it was 4. So the national is seeing a downtrend. Michigan City, we just saw our first uptick. Now it's only 0.1, and we're at 4. And I just said that full employment is 3%. Some economists say 4.5 to 6 is full employment, but that's a little high. So we're only 1% away from full employment. But we're on an uptick.
What you just said, Tony, is very perplexing because I watch the news every morning on Channel 2, CBS, and they have a young lady, Jill's Money Watch, Jill Schlesinger, and just the other day, she was talking about unemployment, and the 4% number came out, but then she went on and she said you have to look deeper to understand what's going on than just that number. She said, and she said she gave statistics that of everyone in the United States, every person that is age-wise qualified to work, capable of working, of that group, only 68% of them are working. So when you hear 4% unemployment and 3% is considered full employment, that's what made me say that's perplexing. Because she was very specific in that 68%. The other 32% are people that are, like we said, they're baby boomers that have retired. They still qualify to work, but they're not working because they've retired. People transitioning from jobs that they're very employable, but they're transitioning. You have people that are not working because they're underskilled. They've got to retrain. You've got people that are unemployed but not in the statistic because they've been unemployed so long, some of the people that need to retrain, that they've exceeded their allowable unemployment benefits. So that's become a sizable number in this country. People that are unemployed and have no unemployment benefits because they've been unemployed so long, they've exceeded the allowable limit that the government allows them to collect unemployment.
Yeah, the disenfranchised workers. That's a big number.
Yeah, so
that's
you
still
really
a big number.
It's really hard to understand exactly how good or how bad the economy is.
But to go a little bit of my economics class. So suppose the unemployment rate was, let's say, 10%. 10% unemployment rate, which is really, really bad. Those disenfranchised workers really have no impetus, no desire, no market force to bring them back to the workforce. Now you get to an unemployment rate hovering around what economists think is full unemployment. Now they have a driving force pulling them back. Like, we need help. If you drive around town, there's signs, help wanted. Sears just put up a sign, help wanted. All over the place, help wanted. So with that kind of driving force, the economists, I believe, hope to see that disenfranchised number start to go down because the force is pulling them back to the workforce. We need those people to come back. We have no choice. But we have full unemployment. We have no choice but to pull from somewhere else, and that only people you have left is disenfranchised workers. But if you look at these numbers, that's why I printed the whole U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, that the unemployment rate at 3.8 in June, didn't look at that. So May was 3.5 for Michigan City, and they have a proposed rate coming in June of 3.8, so it went up another 0.3. That's not good. I said it went up 0.1. In these rates, they're proposing, they're showing a possible 0.3 uptick of 3.8. But if you look at these numbers, you get to see where the unemployment and the employment's happening. Total non-farm went down. Manufacturing went down. Trade, transportation, utilities went down 3.5%.
That's what that woman I mentioned, Schlesinger, said.
Professional service down 3.4%. Leisure, hospitality, boy, that's Michigan City. That's Michigan City, down 3.6%. Government, good. Hey, right, we're government workers. Good. 4.3% down. Good. Good. Like to see that. But the one thing that saved you, the only thing that saved us here, mining, logging, and construction. 11.1% up in 1 month. 11%.
And
wow.
And it really kind of gnaws at me because we always hear how good things are because of construction jobs. My career has been in construction, and construction jobs are temporary jobs.
Short term.
They're not permanent. The saying that every guy and woman who's ever worked construction, every day you come to work, you're working yourself out of a job. When whatever your building is done, you're going to get laid off. You got to go back to the union hall. If you're a union worker, if you're not, you got to beat the street, find another job. They're temporary. They're turnover. And
right now, we're hoping, I guess the hope is that construction will stay strong because we just passed a 10-cent gas tax, so hopefully they'll keep working. We got all this next level stuff. The housing market, I mean, my house is for sale, and see if it sells at a good price. The market's good, and housing stock is down. There's not many houses for sale like you saw in Edgewood. Not many left. I just heard from home builders that new construction is about $185 a foot. So if you take a typical 1,200 square foot home in Michigan City, which is really what everyone's kind of got, at $100 a foot, that's $120,000. At $200 a foot, that's $240,000. So you're talking $200,000 to build the same thing you can buy built today, but there's no inventory. So we're hoping the construction side is really going to drive this economy for the next, I don't know, 3, 5, 7
Tony,
years.
One comment I'd like to add to that. I'd like to know what the employment figures are in Chicago since Mayor Emanuel has raised the minimum wage.
Yeah,
because I've talked to a lot of young people who in our town, who work 2 jobs. They work 2 jobs because they want to live singly. They don't want to have to share an apartment so they can have a standard of living. And I'd like to know what that minimum wage has done to the unemployment figures. We've got a lot of, you're right, Tony, we've got a lot of jobs available, sign up here in Michigan City, but they're minimum wage jobs. Now, if those jobs paid more, how many people would be able to work just one job, which would free up all the other jobs for more people to have?
Yeah, that's a delicate balance between labor dollars that you're paying and inflation. So that's always what we're fighting. But yeah, you're right. Seattle tried to do $15 minimum wage, and a lot of people lost their full-time job and they went to part-time, so they didn't have to pay the $15, or they couldn't afford to pay the $15, and they ended up with less than they had. Now, granted, a lot of people are working 2 jobs, but if you look at the housing market, especially Michigan City, if you could buy a house for $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, your mortgage payment's going to be $700, $800 a month. That's about what you're paying for an apartment. So, and you get to build some equity, hopefully. So there's economics. Strange animal. But I guess can we spend a couple more minutes here? Well, what I started talking about was I looked at the boomers, baby boomers, 1940 to 1960. So you start looking a little ahead. Well, you don't have to because that's today, 2017. At 60 years old, the boomers are between 2000 and 2020. We're at 2017. At 65 years, they're 2005 to 2025. So another 7 more years, they'll all be 65. At 70 years old, 2010 to 2030. So I'm thinking the boomers are good, hardworking generation, right? They saved their money, they worked hard, a lot of them had one job and raised families and had their homes paid for, and they're pretty good financially. And we all know that they either have a 401k or a savings account or a pension. A lot of them have 401ks.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's another thing that was mentioned on TV. We talk about the stock market going crazy,
Yes.
and yet statistically, less than 50% of Americans invest.
Yeah, so it's small.
It's
The
small.
the numbers of Americans invest, but the numbers of boomers, the baby boomers, the amount of money they control, and I haven't found out how much this is, and I'm keep researching the internet. Suppose they control a block of that stock market. Suppose they control 40% of that invested dollar. When they hit 70, it's 7 years now, 1940, let's see, 2010 at 70, from 1940, they've already hit 70. They're going to start wanting to, like you said, they're going to want to retire, go do things, either RV or see their grandkids or go to Disney World or travel the world or travel the United States or downsize their house. That's a huge block of people that could, for a while now. So I said 2010 to 2030. So let's take half of that, 2020. So in 3 years, 3 to 5 years, if this baby boomer generation who controls, say they control 30%, let's say they control 25% of the market, if they pull their money in mass from the stock market, you will not be able to catch that fall. And so I'm a younger person. My money's in there, invested in 401ks and in the stock market. In 3 years, I have to think, wait a minute, if these boomers pull their money out and we're sitting at 25 or 27,000 for this Dow Jones, it's easy. Just take 30%, take 3,000, take 9,000. Can I handle a stock market dip to 19,000 in a matter of a year, 6 months, a year and a half? Because as soon as some baby boomers see that, oh man, there's a lot of people pulling their money out, I don't want to get caught in that. I'm taking my money out too, and I'm just, because I'm retired, I can, I have $2 million in the bank or $1 million in the stock market. I can take it out, stick it in the bank, and just spend it till I'm 90.
Well, what was the dip during the undervalued mortgage crisis?
Yeah.
It was bad.
Oh, it was very
Went
bad.
fast, and a lot of people
You couldn't catch it.
couldn't catch
You were
it. By the
done.
time they figured out what was happening, they were
Yeah,
devastated.
it was months,
Yeah,
weeks.
months.
Just-
Yeah.
So that's something I want to bring to the show because we need to start thinking, my generation especially, when are we happy with the stock market that we say, I know the baby boomers are happy with their money and they're going to start pulling their money and that will affect the value in the stock market. I'm not an economist, but boy, it sure seems to go for it because you saw a show on the Social Security. That brings us to the next topic.
Yeah.
Social Security.
And that's
Go
why
ahead.
I sat forward a little bit. I want to emphasize to our audience that this is a public service show. We are here to help you, to inform you of trends that we hear are coming, that we research, so that you won't end up being taken advantage of and not knowing it.
Or not getting hit by it.
Hit blindsided. Social Security is a good example. I've done some homework on that recently. The facts are that Social Security is not going to fail. It's not going to cease. Every couple months, a scary rumor passes around.
Yeah, going to go broke.
It's going to go broke.
No money.
No money. It's dry. The bank is
dry.
totally empty.
No
Well,
money.
it's not. What actually happened, and I got an explanation of this from a national news network, that when it first started, the program was like a funnel. Everybody was contributing and no one was pulling out. So without having to invest, the government accumulated an enormous amount of money. They call this the surplus. And as things progressed and more people gradually, very slowly ratcheted up and retired and started to draw from the system, there was so much of a surplus, it was an effect that was not even felt. Well, now it's gotten to be, with the baby boomers, it's approaching a 1-to-1 where for every person contributing, there's a person drawing out. And by 2035, they estimate that that surplus will be gone. There'll be no surplus, it'll be zero. And you'll be on a 1-to-1 basis. So what the government plans on doing, the federal government, in 2035, they will continue to have Social Security benefits, but they will be reduced by 25%, which will be an enormous impact. And what I suggest people do, people 52 and older, the way I come up with that number, if you're 52 right now, 2035 is 18 years from now, you're 70. Look at your benefits program with the government. You can get on irs.gov. They used to mail people a sheet every year. They stopped doing that. Now you have to get on the website and it'll tell you at your work, with your working record, what your benefit will be if you retire at 62. If you retire at full benefit age, 60, used to be 65, now it's 66. Eventually, full benefit age will become 70.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with me, I could have retired at 62, 65. Full benefits was 66 for me. I drew it because I looked at 70. If I would have waited till I was 70, I would have collected $10,000 more a year. But then you look at mortality. And why does the government do that? They encourage people to wait longer so that they won't have to pay out as much in benefits. Sit down and draw yourself that chart. If I start collecting at 62, at 65, at what point do the lines cross? Well, if I wait till 70 and I start collecting, with mine it was 77 years old, and I would have collected the same amount, collecting less money starting at 66 and 10,000 more starting at 70. But mortality, 77, not that many people live that long. People that are, and this is why you need to look at it, because you need to take a look at those numbers right now and ask yourself, all right, calculate what's that number going to be in 2035 when they reduce it 25%. And you need to figure out where you're going and at what point those lines cross. It might very well be, if Social Security is going to reduce another 25% in a benefit, it might be to your advantage to start collecting at 62. Even though it's a lower amount, you're going to get more of your money back. And I emphasize your money. When you hear about a congressman and they're talking about the federal financial situation, and if you ever hear of your congressman referring to it as your Social Security entitlement, you need to vote against him, because he's not thinking. That's not entitlement. You put that money in. That's your money. Look at it as a forced savings account. That's your money.
Well,
remember that.
This is a tough subject, because that's why I wanted to bring the stock market in. And we see on the news every day about Illinois and their pension crisis and what they're doing. But it all depends on the rate of return. And we keep doing that over the Michigan City, the projects. You know, what's our rate of return? What do we get back? If the economy is doing good and the Fed changes the interest rates and they are not hovering around 2 or 3%, they're at 8 or 9%, that 2035 number might go to 2045. If there's more money being interest gained on the funds that we paid in, this is our money, right? This is our money. Took it from our paychecks. Our employer paid it into Social Security number.
Mm-hmm.
We paid an amount to the government. Took our money. Held it, and they're going to give it back to us. If that goes from 2 or 3 or 4% to 7, 8, 9% interest rate, that'll bump that 2035 number, and maybe they won't. You can either push out because of how long you live, or you cannot reduce it by 25%. I guarantee you, no politician, no elected official in the world is going to want to vote to decrease Social Security benefits. Oh, they won't be in office again. That'd be, because those are the voting block of people. So it's so volatile, and that's why I want to bring up the stock market. That's not just capitalism. That stock market has a direct impact to interest rates, and that is what Social Security is based upon. When those funds will go to a 1-to-1, all balances with how that investment's made. Same with Illinois. They talk about their pension and they're short on money. Well, I don't know. I saw a little article in Illinois. They were saying they're getting 2, 3, 4% interest rate. Some of the 401ks, some of the mutual funds out there were earning 16, 18, 20% the last 2 years.
But you're talking private and personal investment now.
Yeah, but why?
What is the government?
But what's the pension fund doing with their money that's only getting 2 or 3%? What are they doing?
The government has a responsibility to invest our money, but they also have a responsibility to invest it at a conservative level where they won't lose our money.
Yeah, exactly. How conservative?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at Indiana's 401k, their Public Employees Retirement Fund, you could go anywhere from what, 0.25% to 18, 19% in the fund you choose. Now, you're right.
Depending on how much risk you want to
assume. How much risk? So the government has been, Social Security and obviously Illinois didn't want to get too risky, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot because, I mean, if Indiana Public Employees Retirement Fund has funds that are earning 16 to 18%, those are governments hiring private people who are doing that for us. It's working. They're doing it. Personally, as county surveyor, I get a little bit of retirement fund from. It's very tiny. I didn't think it was going to be anything of it. I said, whatever. It's tiny amount. Just roll it into some high investment. When you start earning 18%, $100.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, $100. Yeah, it's unheard of. $100 becomes 120, and 120 becomes 140. I mean,
well,
now you're talking about real money.
Yeah. Well, Indiana's done something right. I mean,
amazing.
You don't achieve a $2 billion surplus without doing something right.
So
Indiana, when the Public Employment Retirement Fund, what you hear people refer to as PERF, those funds represent Indiana's investment too. They're making money so that they can pay us, but they're making money that they're keeping in their own treasury fund too.
And a long time ago, Indiana said, wait a minute, pensions aren't going to work. We can't afford the downturn, which Illinois got caught in, and we can't fund it. So let's switch them over to mutual funds and let them decide how much risk they want. It's up to you. You can decide. Do you like to be 0.25%, or do you want to take the risk and go to 18? What do you want? If I didn't have a lot of money in there, I probably wouldn't have done it.
That's the future right there of business. Pension funds are going to disappear everywhere because employers cannot afford to maintain pension funds. They have to make a contribution to the employee and put the responsibility of investing in growth on the employee.
Yeah, it's still kind of a pension fund. It's the employee that has to decide how much risk they want.
Yes.
They're still getting the money. It's still there. It's just that they're going to decide, do I want to be in bonds or do I want to go in small cap stocks? The employee has to decide how much risk they want. And then the government's not going to say, oh my gosh, we promised you X dollars in pension. We don't have it because we put it real conservatively. We didn't earn the money. We didn't put enough money in there. Then they'll say, wait, that was you. That was your choice. You chose conservative, or you chose very risky and you lost 4% or you gained 10%. I mean, that fluctuates. So that we don't have the liability as a government. That puts it, these are the dollars you get. You invest them. We will give you a good, safe investment place. You choose the risk. And I think that's the best way possible. Indiana and a lot of other states did it, and they're really paying dividends.
And private industry is doing it.
They've done it for decades. Decades done it this way. So that's why we want to bring Social Security. It's not scary.
Get online. Get online. Get your Social Security retirement sheet so you know what the numbers are. Don't get surprised, please.
Again, we're pushing them online. I can't tell you yes, online is scary, and you hear bad stories about it, but there's so much information out there. Now, just make sure you go to like the irs.gov. Just pay attention to the website you're going on. You know, don't go to some of these scam sites. When I had to look up labor statistics, I went to the U.S. Bureau of Labor. I went to their website. I'm not going to some other crazy website. But the next topic, Best of Michigan City. We didn't bring the book in. I got one of them. You got two.
I think everybody got one. It's an attractive little pamphlet in color, shows a lot of attractions in the city, but it doesn't, we as government people, elected, appointed, hired, we like to know the specifics. Where did the money come to pay for
Well, who
this?
put it out?
Who put it out? We
Yeah.
don't know who put it out.
Yeah.
How were the businesses selected? And I'm not taking a shot at Shoreline Brewery. I love their food. Shoreline Brewery is a wonderful thing to have in Michigan City. But
Why didn't Mady's get
why didn't Mady's get one?
Why
Get a
didn't
sheet? Why didn't
Benny's
Galveston
get one?
Steakhouse?
Why didn't Galveston?
You know, who made the choice there? Who made the choice that it was the winery on the east side of town on Shady? Was that Shady? I'm not much of a
I
wine
don't remember
drinker.
either. I'm trying.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all good business, but that's why we're asking
gotta be-
who put it out. It doesn't say on there, you know, paid for by the Michigan City Events Director, or it says who printed it.
Economic Development.
It doesn't say who-
Tourism Bureau. It doesn't say.
I guess my first beef, Dwayne, is I got that in my mailbox. I already live in Michigan City. I know those places. I go to them every day. Is that the correct place to be putting a mailer out? Are we just putting a mailer out? My sense was I saw a mailer. I didn't find out who it was or why we put it out. My first sense was, why am I getting this? I know what's in Michigan City. I live here, grew up here. I know it's in Michigan City every day. I go to local restaurants. I shop at local places. So is somebody printing this that we're paying for, just trying to say, hey, you know, we're doing something good for you, look. Well, I don't want to see it. I want the tourists to see it. But then my second thing was I looked through the book and I think, you know, and I don't have a service establishment business. Well, yeah, I do, but not in that sense. But how does anyone, you know, how does a hotel get in there? How does Albano? I didn't see Albano's in there. How does
Yeah.
Phil Sosimo's get in there? You know,
The wayfinding signs are the same
Ryan's
thing.
Steak, you know, Ryan's Pub or Mady's. Yeah, well, for wayfinding, same thing.
You see wayfinding signs that tell you to go to one business, but not the others. Why don't the wayfinding signs direct you toward the lake and say, lake area eating, lake area dining?
Oh, that'd be a
Where
good
you know
idea.
that there are more than one restaurant there. There's more than one restaurant. That's, you know, we want to be fair to all Michigan City businesses.
Well, what about, you know, even new ones, Fiddleheads, right? New business.
Yeah.
They're not in there. What's the brewery on by the old brewery over there on 9th Street?
Zorn,
Zorn. Why aren't they on?
Burnham Brewery, well, you know.
I mean, did they put out a request? And if they did, who is they? How do you get? That's free advertisement. And that wasn't cheap. You know, I've done mailers politically. You've done mailers politically. It's not cheap.
You know what a good idea would be? Like when you go into a shopping mall, an enclosed shopping mall, or even an outdoor lighthouse. If you had on a corner a wayfinding sign, is that what wayfinding?
Yeah, wayfinding.
Wayfinding sign, and there's parking, and then below that wayfinding sign, there's a map that lists all of the businesses in that area. People could, well, I know we're close to where we want to be, park the car, get out and look, and you've got a directory of all of the restaurants, retail, bars.
Yeah, I didn't mind much that it was Blue Chip or that it was the Lighthouse Place, because that's exactly what they had. You go to Blue Chip, and now Blue Chip's one owner, though, and you got lots of different things. You go to the Lighthouse Place, there's lots of stores.
Yep.
But no, when you're telling them to go to one specific business and drive by everyone else, I don't understand it. I don't see how that's fair. But my first question was, and maybe the viewers can help us in emails, who put it out? And why did they send it to locals? It says who it was printed by. Well, who's responsible for it? And now you got it twice.
I haven't driven the toll road east and west in a while or stopped at one of the convenience areas, but that's where those pamphlets should be,
I hope they're there.
along the toll road.
And the Visitors Bureau?
Yeah.
Then we need to take a trip to the Visitors Bureau. We need to go down and to the mall and see if those pamphlets are in there. I mean, I thought when we were doing this create, play, repeat thing, we were going to have like Wisconsin Dells. You see those commercials on TV all the time, right?
Yep.
The kid in the water and the water slides, and Wisconsin Dells, and come to Wisconsin, the water park capital. Where's that for Michigan City? I mean, do I see commercials? They're not expensive. You can get commercials on CNBC pretty cheap. I've seen local politicians do commercials during elections on CNBC or Fox News or MSNBC or CNN. There's blocks of time in those cables to put commercials on. I would have been far happier if I saw create, play, repeat, and even if it was some business, even if it was Shoreline Brewery on those commercials, I'd been far happier to see that in those kind of venue than a mailer twice to local people who already know. You know, or maybe you do the mailer only to the beach walk homes. But I don't think the beach walk homes get mail anytime you're there. You don't get any mail there. You're renting a home for a week and you don't get anything mail there. You don't get any. Maybe we should be doing that. Maybe we should team up with the beach walk and make sure those people get mailers. I don't know. When you go to Vegas or New York or Disney World, there's things on your door and mailers in your room and all kinds of stuff. This is what to do in Michigan City. So that was my
I'm
point.
a little bit perplexed because I haven't heard that. This is only the second time I've heard that. Create,
play, repeat. I thought it was funny because that's CPR.
CPR,
Is that what Michigan City needs, CPR?
Jesus.
Sorry. I thought that was going to be funny. We had ours, right? Destination Michigan City.
Yeah, that's
because it encompasses everything. Destination. It's a destination. Come here, spend your money here, enjoy what we have. That's why I thought we should bring
repeat.
Create, play, repeat. You know, we have a flyer. Why did it come to locals? Who put it out? Who paid for it? Who chose who was in it? Just to throw something out like that.
We do need a little CPR.
Maybe we need some CPR. So we only have a few minutes left, so we're going to be real quick here because that dovetails into the question. Yep. I asked Dwayne. I remember we had the Michigan City Events Director. That's what they call it, right? Hired somebody. I don't remember who.
I don't understand that.
What are they doing? Is there a report to the council?
Well,
is there a report to the mayor?
I haven't seen any reports. I haven't read about any, heard about any on the radio. The individual who is our events director, again, does not live in Michigan City. We've been talking about that for a couple years.
You looked that up?
Oh, yeah. She does not live in Michigan City. She moved, but she doesn't, and I think she has an apartment here. I'm not totally sure.
But that's a paid position.
It's a well-paid position. And we have talent locally. Let's take the events and let's break them up into two types. Our annual events that are small town, hometown events. The St. Patrick's Day Parade, the 4th of July Parade. Nobody did that better than Johnny Stimley. Nobody.
Oh, he gave us heart and soul.
A local guy.
Heart and soul.
Okay.
Still does.
Local community events. We had talent there. Johnny did it well. He doesn't do it anymore. Now let's take a look at the big one.
He's still on. He's still hard. He wants for the zoo board.
Johnny works hard for the zoo.
He never gives up. That guy.
Nope.
Never gives up.
Now let's take a look at the big events.
Wish I had the
Great Lakes. The Great Lakes Grand Prix. We have
this weekend.
Right. We have Jack Arnett, Tourism Bureau.
Yeah.
Jack's a heavy hitter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You want a big event?
Oh yeah.
Send Jack and his team out and let them chase it.
They get it.
We've got two people.
Oh yeah.
That are very competent to bring home the stuff that Michigan City needs.
Oh, they know.
For a quality summer, for year round. We've got two people that can do that. I don't understand why this position was.
Well, I was hoping if we were going to have an events director, because we saw the same thing with Labor Days when the Tower group quit and they got mad. We're seeing the same thing with Summerfest committee. They've quit and they're getting mad and they're not going to help no more. They used to run the parade, right? And
they did a good job.
The boat show, what happened to the boat show? What happened to Labor Days? I know it needed a little help. The fireworks. I mean, that's what I thought, and I think everyone thinks that the events director we should be seeing. And as a politician, I hate to toot your own horn, but the events director needs to show up at the city council and say, "Hey, I'm the events director. This is what I've been doing, and this is what I hope to do next year, and 3 years, and 5 years, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how much it's going to bring in." all I've seen, and we don't know, that's why we brought it forward, is that book. Who put it out? Who got in it? Who paid for it? And is that all we're getting?
Michigan City should have an annual schedule of events. Summerfest had that.
Oh, yeah. For
Michigan
the next
City-
3 to 5 years.
Yes, Michigan City does not, because they're biting off one at a time what Summerfest used to do.
Well, it seems
It
like
doesn't do anymore.
we're not biting anything off, we're just killing them.
Yeah.
I mean, and this goes back many administrations. With the Labor Fest was huge. And it got out of control and got big, but that was put on by a volunteer group. And then Summerfest put on a parade, right? And put on Drum and Bugle Show and,
Yep.
and lots of things. And those are volunteers. They don't get paid anything, right?
Oktoberfest used to be
Oktoberfest was
a marvelous
huge.
event.
Huge!
It had all the food, the bands, the music, everything it has now. But the grass area at Washington Park was a merchant's bazaar.
Oh, it was huge.
It looked like a gypsy camp with all
Oh, it was great.
the different tents and everything. It was just so
Boat
much
show.
fun.
What happened to boat show?
It used to be Sail and Power both.
Oh, it was
And
huge.
the last one I went to, Sail was all gone. I don't know who discouraged the sailboat owners and manufacturers from coming.
I mean, I hate to bring it up again. Seems like we do this every show. Farmers market. Did we throw it and push everyone out of there? I mean,
9th and Washington was a marvelous spot. Right across the street from St. Stan's Church and School is a good spot.
no, that's a great spot.
Yeah.
Great spot. I thought the
only
East Street spot
difference-
was good too, but
The only difference was 9th and Franklin was paved. It was in a paved parking lot, so
well, and it was by downtown, so people
Yeah,
could come in
it's
and
quiet.
walk downtown and,
Yep.
and enjoy downtown. Now, good for St. Stan's. That's Midtown, which I haven't done anything yet, but we're getting close here. We got about a minute and a half left to bring everyone up. I haven't posted our last show. No, 2 shows ago. Andy did get me this last show. I can post that this weekend. I did post the July 8th show, so we have everything except the last 2 shows and this show. So this weekend I should have last show and the last 2 shows, and we're going to be missing this show. What do you want to tell them about what we're going to do? What we did? What we're going to do? Hiatus.
we're going to take another hiatus, 5 weeks, so that we do 5 shows, and then we take 5 weeks off and we rerun those 5 shows so that you can catch up. We don't want to overload you with shows. We've done 10. After today, we'll have done 10 shows.
And they're all posted on. They will be all
They will
posted on
all
YouTube.
posted with indexes of what we discussed on each show.
Yes, we added indexes on topics. So if you click on the show, you can see the topics we discussed in the show. If you'd like to see the show, you can see what we discussed. But yeah, we're gonna ask our friends here at Alco to run our last 5 shows over for the next 5 weeks, and we'll come up as we always do. We've got pages and pages of topics. We've only got a few seconds left. I'd like to thank
And
Alco.
all of our shows will be on YouTube.
Thank Alco for everything they do for us. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable what Comcast allows us to do. Thank you. Anything else? You got a couple seconds?
Come on back. We got a lot more for you.
See you in 5 weeks.